I'm Brian. Today I'm going to show you how to change your brake pads on a 2007 BMW motorcycle. This is an R1200 RTP. You'll find a lot of similarities in other bikes too. So the first thing we want to do is all of this is held together by these bracket bolts and stuff. We're going to have to knock this pin out, and it's easiest to pull the pin while it's on the bike. So I take a pair of needle nose vice grips. These have been modified, as you can see, so that they can grab into pins. I just basically rounded them on the grinding wheel. And now they work for everything that they didn't used to work for. So you pull this pin out first. Just leave it clipped into this. We'll come back to that later. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a small Phillips screwdriver, put it through this hole, and there's a little clamshell roll pin in there, so we're going to have to hit this hard enough to knock that through. Once you've done that, you can leave this in together if you like. That's far enough. We just need to get that knocked through while it's holding it for us. Next thing we're going to do is take a T45 and just zip these off. Turn your impact. You can use hand tools if you want. I've put my hours in. I feel totally cool about using a little impact. So next thing you do is take a big flathead screwdriver, stick it alongside the tire, and just turn it like that. Just stick it in there the best you can, turn it, and that'll cause the pistons, there's two pistons in here, it'll cause them to get pushed back a little bit. And then you should be able to get it to come up and off. With car calipers, I like to turn them over, but with these braided ones, and as long as the run is, I just tip them up like this. You want to compress these pistons back in there. There's a couple of ways to do it. One of the ways I like to do is just take a couple of pry bars, stick them in the old brake pads that we don't have any affinity for anymore. Just wiggle them, get them in there good, and then just go real slow and gentle. If you rock this thing hard, you can screw up your master cylinder, I'm told. I've never done it. The nice thing about using pry bars is they work kind of like a spring. Anyway, just nice and slow, work them back like that. Now pull the pin out the rest of the way. So here's the brake pads. It's important to read your brake pads when you take them out. Now, how do you read a brake pad? We're not looking for any print, we're looking for wear signs. This one here has nothing at all left, and this has some left. That means that it's not centering properly. And this was on the back side. So we definitely need to address our pins. Now there's a way that you can just knock the pin out, and these will actually pull out the back, you know, on either side. Just pull them out. So the way these work is there's a pin on the front side here with this boot. There's another pin at the center bottom right here. So what you do is just work it and wiggle it back and forth like that. And you can see here, this is the brake hardware. I've done videos on brake hardware before, but we need to lubricate this so that the pads can move freely here. You can take a brass bristle brush like this and just clean those. Just be careful not to bend them. And then I'll put some lubricant there. But the way this works is this front part of the pads go into that like this. Can you see that, how the front of the pads just go in there? So if you pull out the pin, guess what's holding them in? Nothing. You can slide them out the back. The tricky thing is compressing the caliper with it on there. But say you just want to pull these out and look, say you're going to go on a big long ride and you want to make sure you have enough brake pad left, you can do that. Knock the pin through while it's still bolted up, slide them out the back and look at them that way. Also, if you have a hole through the whole thing, that's a problem. So looking at this now, we've got one pin here, and then we've got another pin right here. You can see this one. So the goal is, these were really dry and binding. You need to clean these with brake parts cleaner and then lubricate them with the silicone lube and then put it back together. So the same brass brush, you can just go through, get any rust, any debris, any whatever that's on each of these. I've done a little bit of this off camera when I was on the phone. I hate phones. So I bought my pads online. You save a ridiculous amount of money over what the dealership wants for them. What's funny is this one on the piston side is a lot thicker than the other one. Hopefully they still fit. Is it optical illusion? Let's stack and find out. Nope, there's still a gap. That is definitely thicker on this one. So I'm going to take some ceramic and silicone based stuff and just put it on there. This will just help keep your brakes quiet. For some reason, rear brakes on motorcycles like to squeak more than front brakes. Just want to make sure that these are good. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of this silicone grease on the pins and put these together. Mostly you just put it on the end and let it slide in. This is like way too much. And you need to make sure you get it on that little barb so that the boot will get up on the barb and keep all the dirt and water out. I'm going to lay that out so it can't touch the rotor and contaminate it. Awesome. And take these and line them. They got to be exactly the same. And then when you put them together, really smush them on there. I mean, really smush them or else it won't get up on the barb. You can test and see if you're there by pulling it back and see if it hangs up. If it hangs up like that, then you know that you're good. Cool. So next thing we do is we just take the brake pads and we got to get them all the way up into that shelf that we just lubricated. They're not going to want to do it. But turn it sideways, make sure you're all the way seated in there. And then take your pin. But you can see that there's a little split in that ball. It's just a little roll barrel pin, like roll pin that's on the pin. Let's stick that in there, and we need to be able to get that to click in. It's going to fight you. You take your pliers, grab the brake pad part, do it on the back side where there's support for it, and you just get it to click. Sounds easy enough, huh? And then roll your pliers and then just line up your hole for your retaining pin. Remember the retaining pin, the first thing we did? We can put that back in now. Make sure it goes in all the way, not just halfway and stopping. Okay, then take your big screwdriver, make sure it's clean, stick it between the pads and just twist it so you've got a gap like this. And then put it back onto the rotor. I'll just have to grab mine and spread them. Alright, so once you got your pads good and spread there, I like to start from the back where my finger is because it's easier to feel, line up and see. Okay, this last part is just something that I do because it's a freaking motorcycle and I don't want to die and have like my caliper come undone and like bind on something, make my rear wheel lock up or something dumb. You put a little bit of anti-seize on there. Blue is plenty. If you put red on, I should just punch you in the face now. Don't use red. Blue just makes it drag so it can't vibrate out on its own. Torque it to the specs in your manual. The most important thing you got to do now is just pump the brake a whole bunch of times. Watch this sucker move. No brakes. Now I have brakes. If you don't pump it ahead of time, don't expect to have brakes when you go to stop. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video on how to do rear brakes on a motorcycle.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to click like and subscribe. Bonus footage at the end.